Hey guys, so just a quick update tonight for our AI watch list. We're just going to get through these charts here. CoreWeave did have their earnings. They pumped initially after hours. They were up 7%. They pumped into earnings as well, so they were up 6.6% today. And then, yeah, initially they did pump up to $75. So, unfortunately, they seemed to sell off about an hour after that for some reason. Not sure they beat their earnings revenue, but they kind of had that negative EPS, but they're still a hyper growth company right now, so they're still in the process of scaling their operations. They have $26 billion in GPU backlog, and they have some of the biggest competitors and biggest players in AI as clients and backers. So I'm still really bullish on the position. I entered at an average of $39, so down here, and then it's just been up here. We had a few little down days, but just really nice move here. We're up almost, I think it's over 60 something percent right now. So entering from 39 here up to the current price, up 73%. And yeah, we were almost even up. We were up 95% here at one point after hours when it was at $75. You know, I kind of said that to myself after. I shouldn't have been greedy. I should have taken half off the table there. My plan was to take 50% off my initial investment once it had doubled, and we came within 5% of it. I probably should have done that, but I wasn't really there at the time, and I wasn't able to pull the trigger on that. Ultimately, the price dumped so bad back down to $62 or $63, where I had a stop loss on 25% of my position. So I actually ended up getting stopped out here after hours because of that post earnings dump. So that was unfortunate, but at the same time, I booked 60% profit on 25% of the position. So what I did was just take a little bit of the profit that we've made off the table, and then I'll look to reinvest that at a lower price. And that's how you're going to raise either your share count or kind of lower your cost basis, either way that you look at it. So just looking to kind of, conservatively protect those profits. As I said, this is a volatile stock. In this short amount of time, it's moved up almost over 100% from the lows, and then almost 100% from our entry even as well. So I don't mind taking a little bit of profit off the table when you're up 70, so almost 75% on a position. So we'll just keep holding. We're still holding 75% of the initial value in that position, or not the initial value, but 75% of the position is left on the table. Just taking a little bit of profits off, protecting it, and then now it's a risk-free trade. We continue to protect the rest of that position with stop losses, and then we just move on to the next one. Look to put that capital back in elsewhere where it might be in a little bit better value. Not that this isn't bad value, but it is a little bit extended here, so we need to recognize that. And we do see that we have some buy orders stacked down here in the 50s, so there's definitely the possibility we come back here and retest this area. We've got a couple moving averages here. We've got this upsloping trend line, so definitely the potential to come back here, retest this support before ultimately continuing, I think, to this first target, which is that 1618 Fibonacci extension at almost $81. So looking to take profit here again once we reach it, and then moving on, we're going to look at Nvidia here, another one that we purchased, getting in there kind of at an average of about $100 during the dip. We kind of came down below this trend line, regained it. We got uptrending price action, looked really good, had a nice breakout of this upper trend line as well as this pivot high resistance. So Nvidia is looking really good, but we're going to look and see where is a good opportunity to add to this position. So we see on the Vortex indicator the bullish momentum is favored here on the daily. The RSI is just getting into oversold territory, or overbought territory, and the DMI is actually looking really strong here. We got the DMI positive line nice and high, and the ADX line is just crossing here. So this is actually just the beginning of the bullish trend here, and it looks like it's going to be a big bullish impulse potentially. So if we do see that follow through, that'd be nice. And then we can take a look at the weekly. We're getting that bullish cross on the Vortex indicator after this downtrend, and same thing here, that DMI positive line aggressively curling up. We had our bullish cross with the RSI, so this is a really good setup. The daily's looking good, the weekly's looking good. We need to see a little bit more volume hopefully, but we also want to not miss our entry. So right now on this higher low on higher high for the weekly chart, our Fibonacci levels come in here. We're going to target the 0.5 for Nvidia because it's so strong. We see here at 1 115. There's also this previous pivot support here, but yeah, so targeting here even down to the 786. If we got that opportunity, $100 to $115 is going to be a good opportunity to pick up some Nvidia, and then I think we just end up having to attack this upper resistance here around 150, kind of previous all-time highs, break out of it, and then we're on our way and we can continue hold this position. Nvidia, I think, is going to obviously continue to be a dominant force when it comes to AI, so we're not going to fade them. We're going to keep adding to our position when we can, but we're not chasing big breakouts like this. We also see a little gap here, so just be patient, wait for your entry, and then we'll just adjust it as we see, and then we can take a look on the daily and see. Yeah, we do have this zone right here. This could be a little bit more of an aggressive entry in my opinion. I do think the better entry is down here closer to 115, so depending how you want to play it, you can kind of take that more aggressive back test entry right here on that 200-day moving average, or wait for that kind of retest of that 50-day, and then that is nice to see it curling up here. So nice bullish kind of formation of the moving averages. Hopefully continue to see that. Core Scientific here also bouncing from our level of support here and just continuing up. It's above this pivot high resistance, just coming into the 200-week moving average, so it is facing a little bit of resistance here, and I do think we could ultimately come back, test this support before continuing higher. So not chasing into this right now, waiting for potentially even around $8 is going to be a decent opportunity for Core Scientific in my opinion. We'll flip over to Broadcom here, another one. We don't really want to chase these. They're kind of moved pretty aggressively. So we see this VRVP point of control here, this previous pivot high, now resistance, or now support, and we see that the 50-day and the 200-day moving averages stacked right here, looking like we're going to get that bullish cross of these two. So if we do come back, anywhere in this zone here is going to be a decent opportunity to pick up some Broadcom. That's AVGO. They are another chip provider, so a good opportunity. We don't want to be chasing it right now because it's pretty close to highs. There's not a ton of volume here right now, but decent. Definitely the buyers are outweighing the sellers, so that's good to see. We want to see that continued higher lows. If we take a look at the weekly, that's why I just say, you got to wait a little bit. Think of it on the high time frame, but also pay attention to those lower time frames just in case you want to see those signals early, but you want to wait for the confirmation on the higher time frame. So if we pull our Fibonacci, we're currently looking at a nice entry here of about 190 and then up to almost $200. So being patient, wait for that entry. There's also this gap here, so I do think we're in resistance and we're gonna have to take a little bit of a breather before we continue up. So AMD, next one up, is another one that we are interested in. So another chip provider. They are Nvidia's probably biggest competitor. We see they've broken out of this low time frame downtrend we were previously tracking, putting in those higher highs, higher low structure on the weekly, which is nice to see. They're coming into this current higher time frame resistance though, but we do see a bit of a bullish bottoming pattern that could be potentially forming here, but I think we might see that correction first. So if we take a look at our indicators on the weekly, yeah, that bullish trend really forming here with the RSI bullish cross and the Vortex and DMI both supporting that. So looking good here on the daily, also looking good. We see the kind of similar setup to some of the other previous charts we just looked at, but we want to see either we're going to get a breakout and a back test, or we're going to get rejected a little bit here. Even if we did get rejected, that would just wait for that. It's just another opportunity. If we take our Fibonacci tool, the same thing we always do, kind of coincides with a lot of these moving averages. So AMD, you could be looking at about 105 down to about 100 or $98 roughly is a pretty decent entry in my opinion for that higher low, and then otherwise watch it and wait for that breakout and see if we can hold this VRVP point of control as well as that 200-day moving average. So the difference between entering here and then entering up here is pretty small, but the risk is a lot less. We either wait for that higher low or the breakout and back test. That's just kind of the more technical way to do things, so I have to kind of follow my strategy because that's what removes the emotion for me. Same thing with Dell here. Another one that we're interested in, it is just getting above that 200-day, but coming into this resistance as well. Wait for those higher lows. When we see that 50-day curling up, we want to see some more volume picking up, because this is a pretty nasty sell candle here, but nice little consistent volume, but no big buyers really stepping in for Dell right now. So just watch for those higher lows, and then we may be interested more closer down to maybe this 90 to 95 region. Palantir is one that's just ripping. We are in that as well. We're up quite well. So I would have a stop loss, protecting the position, because I just don't want to round trip a lot of profits. So right now mine is at about $113, just protecting a bit of that profit. So if we come back here, we kind of break that technical structure, and we might be due to kind of retest lower levels. I'd rather take that profit out and then reinvest it at those lower levels so that we can compound those returns. Right now we're at pretty high resistance, or not resistance, we're just breaking above here, so we could be due for a little pullback to this support zone here, and then maybe continuation from there. Let's take a look at the indicators. We see the bullish trend basically is confirmed on the Vortex and the DMI, and the RSI is crossing here. If this tops here though, this is a bearish divergence on the RSI, so we need to we definitely need this RSI to trend up like this and not curl over. If it curls over, then we're looking at that bearish divergence and could be a near-term top and due for a retest. We do have a buy order down here, that would be under our stop loss, so we'll just have that there, protect those profits. We're not going to exit the position fully. We're just going to take some profit off the table if that structure is broken. So it's just to consistently maintain and compound those returns, not round tripping things. We don't mind if we're up 50%, if we have to, take a little bit off the table at 30%. 30% returns is still really good for a short-term trade. So keep that in mind. Don't beat yourself up over not maximizing your profits to the full potential. We're never going to time top or bottom perfectly, but we can compound gains consistently. So that's the more important thing. Flipping over to BABA here, also another one where that bullish trend is confirmed on the Vortex, the DMI. We want to see that ADX curling up. The RSI is trending up as well here. We are coming into a bit of resistance, and it has been pretty up and to the right since we got back into this position. So we definitely do want to protect it with a stop loss. 122 would be a good region there, just below that 50-day. Watch for that higher low, and we could see continuation, but we haven't seen a lot of buying follow through here, so we could be due for a larger retracement at some point. We've pulled our Fibonacci, so if you're looking for an entry in BABA, 115 would be slightly more aggressive. If we came back to this 200-day and 200-week moving average around $105, that would be a good opportunity for BABA. Looking here at Super Microcomputer, it just gapped up here today like crazy, kind of broke out of this low time frame downtrend way above its 50-day and 200-day moving average. We have this high time frame downtrend right here. RSI, MACD are looking good with those bullish crosses. Vortex indicator breaking above here, and that DMI also looking good there on the weekly. Let's take a look at the daily. This is where we see that big gap up right above this previous swing or pivot high, and now we have this big daily gap here. So that's the entry that we're going to be targeting for SMCI potentially. This would be the more aggressive, and then looking to add to it within this pivot high resistance, previous pivot high resistance, and then eventually. So how I would play this, potentially start an initial position in here, and then wait, add to it in this pivot high resistance, add to it a little bit more down here in this zone, and then with a stop loss underneath support, and then that would be a potential position that I would be interested in building. I'll have to dive into it a little bit more, so it's just speculative thinking right now. We'll flip over to Tempest AI. This is one that I am actually interested in buying here. So we see on the Vortex losing a little bit of bullish momentum here, as well as the DMI, but it was a pretty strong trend. So we're waiting for those higher lows. If we will take a look at the chart here, it's a very new company, so very volatile, and we just take our Fibonacci tools as always, looking at take it to here, and we see a good entry would be where the 50-day and that 200-day moving average are stacked. So around $50 would be the entry for Tempest AI that I would be interested in. Micron Technology, another chip maker, was previously underneath this resistance, broke back above, currently at the 200-day. Lots of sell order resistance right there. So I wouldn't be chasing it right now. Same thing that we always do. Just pull the Fibonacci levels, look for the high or low entry within that golden zone, and potentially protect it with a stop loss if you're worried. Otherwise, look to add it at lower levels here. But nice volume coming in from the lows. And last but not least, we'll take a look at Tesla because it's basically an AI stock. So what we do see is a big buy order stacked here on the weekly. This would be a really good opportunity. I already mentioned that we came down, we tagged this zone here, and then we've just been pumping since then. So really good move by Tesla, but coming into this pivot high resistance. But the setup on the weekly indicators looks really good. Let's flip to the daily. Also looking really good here. Bullish momentum on the Vortex and the DMI, as well as the RSI, just breaking into overbought territory, excuse me. So it can continue up. I think we could push up into this resistance zone at least before coming back and retesting support. I do think we're eventually going to come back and tag maybe at least this 200-day moving average. There's also this VRVP point of control and all of this kind of support in here. So we've got a buy order block. We've got this previous pivot high that's also now a pivot low support, and that Fibonacci golden zone, that 200-week moving average. So anywhere in here, you know, from 295 down to 250 is going to be that entry in Tesla. So look for that opportunity. Don't chase stuff like this because we're closer to resistance than we are to support. We just want to manage our emotions. These are the better technical entries, so wait patiently and then adjust those levels as you see fit. And then when they do reach there, you don't have to have any emotion. You just make those purchases, add to your positions, and then you know you've done the best you could to set yourself up to be technically successful. And protecting your positions with stop losses is what I prefer to do. So whatever's within your strategy, if you're just DCAing over a long term and you want to maximize your value, then that's fine. Don't worry about using stop losses. You know, if you're in it for years and years, then it's a long-term game. I have a lot of investments that do fall within that category. I also trade stuff on the short term. So everything I treat a little bit differently, but the analysis, the tools, they're all the same. That's why I teach them, and there's just transferable to every asset class and every time frame. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next